Rhodes, is Stephanie White out? Is Stephanie White gone? Is Methany White gone, Rhodes? Have we been saved? Is Jan Jansen, what? Coming to coach the Fever?
That panic in his voice? That's a man who genuinely thought the nightmare was over. Stephanie White gone, Jan Jansen riding in to save the Indiana Fever. There was just one problem. None of it was real. And the way this fake story tore through WNBA media tells you everything about how raw the nerves are around this team right now.
No. Unfortunately, one of the GOATs got by a Twitter X fake account. Some account called Fever Updates. This is the same account that last week, and my lighting is bright as hell. It takes a while this early in the morning for it to acclimate because there's no sunshine coming in.
Here's what actually happened. A parody account on X called Fever Updates posted that Stephanie White was out after repeated in-game clashes with Caitlin Clark. The post claimed Clark wanted Jan Jansen, her old coach from Iowa, to take over. It got community noted almost immediately, but before that note hit, it had already fooled some big names, and the biggest name it caught was a genuine Hall of Fame sports journalist.
Nonetheless, Skip Bayless got by this fake account, right? And everybody started like, oh my God, Skip Bayless. Don't get me wrong, guys. I understand a lot of you are not old enough to remember Skip as a journalist in San Francisco, in Dallas, the Dallas Morning News. I mean, Skip, if there was a Mount Rushmore of sports journalists, Skip Bayless would be on it.
Skip Bayless got. And for anyone who only knows Skip as the take merchant from First Take, understand the weight of this. Before the cartoon character, Skip Bayless covered those Dallas Cowboys and San Francisco 49ers Super Bowl dynasties as an insider with real sources. He built First Take into a juggernaut, originally alongside Woody Page, long before Stephen A. Smith. The lesson here is brutal and simple. In 2025, even a Mount Rushmore reporter can get burned by a troll account if he doesn't check before he posts.
Chloe Peterson, for those that have seen Skip Bayless's tweet about reports of Stephanie White being let go, I'm told there's absolutely no validity to it. Stephanie White is still the coach, much to the chagrin of all of us. Alexa Philippou, this is completely untrue. That's straight from the team.
The team itself shut it down hard. Reporters covering the Fever confirmed there was zero validity to the rumor, straight from the organization. Stephanie White is still the head coach. Notice how fast the media scrambled to wave the all-clear flag. That speed isn't loyalty, it's relief. Because the underlying story, the one nobody could fake, is that this locker room is fracturing in plain sight.
Shifting our attention to Indiana, after starting the season 4-2, the Fever have lost 2 in a row, and they're coming off a 16-point loss to the Fire yesterday. Cheryl, from what you're seeing, what's happening in Indianapolis?
Right now, it's frustration, and unfortunately, it's boiling over, and it's being seen. It's one thing to have it behind closed doors, but when it spills over, and when the coach has to basically say, hey, you know what, Caitlin, enough is enough. This is too disruptive. In and out.
This all traces back to a real moment. The Fever, after a hot start, dropped 2 straight, including a 16-point loss. And on the sideline, cameras caught Stephanie White and Caitlin Clark in a visible, heated exchange. White was reportedly saying defense repeatedly while Clark sat in foul trouble. That clip is the spark that made a fake firing rumor believable in the first place.
Let's see, what do you think?
I agree. I think it's frustration. I'm not like the best lip reader, but I feel like Stephanie White did say defense a couple times. And Caitlin Clark was in foul trouble this game, and obviously we know how things are being called. So I think it is a lot of frustration, but it's also like not that crazy. This isn't the first time we've seen this. It doesn't have some deeper meaning to it. I've had moments like that with coaches. I think it speaks to relationships. Player-coach relationships, like shout out Brian Agler. You could say anything to that man, and you could keep it moving. And then I had other coaches where maybe you couldn't, and you have to learn each other in that way.
But you knew the line. But you knew the line when it becomes disruptive, and then when and that's when even Kelsey Mitchell kind of chimed in and said like, you need to go stand over here and let us just regain the calm in our huddle. When it becomes that disruptive to the entire team.
Now here's where it gets divisive. On the broadcast, Cheryl Miller and Sue Bird analyzed that sideline blow-up, and they did not pin it on the coach. Sue Bird framed it as ordinary frustration, the kind every player has had with a coach, pointing to her own relationships with coaches like Brian Agler. The reading from the desk was that Clark became disruptive, that even Kelsey Mitchell stepped in to settle things, and that when one player disrupts the whole team, somebody has to intervene. That interpretation set off the Fever fan base. Cheryl Miller got dragged for what fans saw as wrapping protective arms around Stephanie White while putting the blame on Clark. The comment sections lit up, accusing the coaching staff of sabotaging Clark and ignoring that the rest of the roster wasn't playing defense either. One recurring complaint: Clark looked calm in that game, yet the narrative still flipped to her being out of line.
It should be for Stephanie White. I think if you look up in another 5 games, they go 2-3. Another 10 games, they go 4-6, even 5-5. Then this team is greatly underachieving. And there is a thing, losing the locker room is absolutely, it's when all the players have decided they have lost confidence in the coach, and the coach's voice becomes mentally muted. We've seen it happen across all sports. You see it in football a lot, and that's why coaches get fired in the season. Because the locker room is lifeless.
So strip away the fake news and the fan fury and ask the real question. Is the end actually near for Stephanie White? The honest answer is that it depends entirely on the next stretch of games. If this team goes 2-3 over the next 5, or 4-6 over the next 10, then a roster this talented is badly underachieving. And in sports, there's a phrase for what comes next: losing the locker room. It's when players quietly stop believing, and the coach's voice gets mentally muted. We see it in football constantly, and it's exactly why coaches get fired mid-season. Not because of one bad week, but because the room goes lifeless.
If you get rid of Stephanie White, and I think if they got rid of her, they'd promote Austin Kelly, and I'd be interested to see what he could do without her being there and her agenda being there. I'd like to see what he would come up with, at least for the rest of the season. I think you got to trade Kelsey Mitchell, and you might be like, wait, what? Look, Stephanie White is such a believer in Kelsey Mitchell. Kelsey Mitchell has got to have become Stephanie White's girl. Not like that, I don't guess, but you know what I'm talking about. She has fully bought into the fact that she is an MVP player when really she's a dynamic scorer, and that's it. All right? And you know, so I think you'd have to make multiple changes.
If the Fever do move on from Stephanie White, the most likely path isn't some splashy outside hire like Jan Jansen. It's an internal promotion to an assistant like Austin Kelly for the rest of the season, just to see what the team looks like without White's system and her agenda steering everything. But coaching might not be the only change worth making. Consider Kelsey Mitchell. Stephanie White has fully bought into Mitchell as an MVP-level player. The harder truth is that Mitchell is an elite dynamic scorer, and that's the ceiling. If you're rebuilding the roster around Caitlin Clark, the bold move is to trade a guard like Mitchell as the centerpiece of a package for a genuine all-star big, then slide a wing like Aaliyah Boston-type frontcourt depth into a more natural role. That's not a small tweak. That's a multi-piece reset. And that's the real story buried under the fake firing. The Stephanie White rumor was never true, but the desperation that made people believe it absolutely is. A talented Fever team is sliding. A coach and a franchise star were caught arguing on national television. The broadcast crew picked a side that enraged the fan base, and a journalism legend got humiliated by a parody account in the chaos. The fake news got debunked in an afternoon. The dysfunction it was pointing at is going to take a lot longer to fix. So here's the question I'll leave you with. When that sideline argument happened, who was actually in the wrong? The coach demanding effort on defense, or the franchise player who'd had enough? You can't say both. Pick a side and tell me in the comments. And if you want more no-holds-barred breakdowns like this one, you know what to do.